Hello, loves. You may have clicked on this video because you are avoiding a difficult conversation or you feel really emotionally unclear about something and you know that you probably need to have a conversation about it and you're afraid that conversation might be really challenging or you know that conversation is going to be really challenging. So this video is for you. I'm going to be talking to you like I would talk to a client of mine so that you can come out on the other side of this video having a little bit more understanding about where you are and having some more tools in your tool belt so that you can perhaps go and have this difficult conversation, or at least watch this video a couple of times so that you can work up the courage to have this difficult conversation. Or sometimes I have people who use my content, whether that be podcasts or videos on Instagram or TikTok or now YouTube videos, as a place or as a way to start these difficult conversations. So you can also be watching this video with the person that you want to have this difficult conversation with. So that way you can use my words or be like, see what she said there? That's how I feel. So sometimes I have had people find that really useful. So who am I? My name is Elizabeth Cunningham. If you like videos about relationships, communication, specifically around LGBTQIA+, or polyamorous or non-monogamous or queer relationships, that's what I specialize in. So if that's you, please like and subscribe to my channel. And if that's not, you can still totally like this video and subscribe. It really is around like healthy relating. And I like to call it being a relationship artist. Because when you are in relationships that are unconventional or outside of the norm, it can be challenging to have role models, to have scripts, to know where to find your bearing in creating these relationships out of sometimes just nothing. And so I want to also acknowledge you for your courage in being who you are and then relating to others and loving others and trekking in this world with the people that you love and care about and just doing the best that you can. Okay, that's a little bit about me. So let's dive into the meat and potatoes of our conversation. Like I said, this is about if you are having a lot of unclear emotions and you are afraid to have a conversation or you're not sure how to have this conversation. If you were sitting in front of me, one of the questions that I would ask you is, what is the fear that comes up for you? And it might be just fear of conflict in general. It might be fear of causing disharmony in your household or in your relationship. It might be even fear of abandonment. If I talk about this thing, I'm afraid that my partner is going to leave me or this person is going to leave me. So there might be a couple of different fears surfacing for you right now. And first, I just want to acknowledge like that is totally normal. It's completely normal to be having these fears. Even if like some of you who are watching this video, you know that these fears are irrational. You know that's probably not true. That's probably not going to go that way, but you're still afraid of it and it's still having you have a hard time in being able to approach this particular situation. So I want to, if you're in the fear category, then even just a little bit, and it might be a combination of a couple of different things, but if you're afraid of something here, I want to ground us into how we're actually feeling right now. We're going to start with you, and then we're going to work outwards. So starting with you, how are you actually feeling right now? And I know that you said that you are one of the reasons why you're watching this video. See, I just fall straight into coach mode. I'm just like, I know you said this. I'm really pretending that like you're talking to me right now. So I know that one of the reasons why you might be watching this video is because you feel unclear about your emotions. So one of the reasons why we're unclear about emotions is because of the fear that we have in the situation, right? If you just have a fear of conflict in general, then you might have an internal response that tells you to just be okay and to, in some ways, either suppress or even disassociate from the uncomfortable or even painful emotions that you might be feeling. So, just for a moment, I want you to pretend that whatever this fear is, that it's not going to happen. It's actually not going to go that way. Just in this moment, I understand that your fear might be founded on things that are very real, but just for our own clarity, in this moment, I want you to pretend we're going to use our imagination to get to know ourselves a little bit better here. I want you to pretend that fear isn't actually going to happen. Like if it's a fear of conflict, that when you bring this up, that it's actually going to be okay. If you actually told the truth about how you feel, it would be okay, that they're not going to leave. It's not going to lead to a big conflict. I want you to pretend in this moment that you really are safe and okay, so that we can start to actually have the feelings that are there feel safe enough to arise and present themselves to you. So we're going to take a moment, okay? You're going to do this with me. If you can, close your eyes. If you're driving, please don't close your eyes. But if you can, close your eyes. And I want you to take a few deep breaths with me, all right? Take a big deep breath in through your nose. Exhale out through your mouth. Relax your shoulders. Maybe even rest your arms down. Take a big deep breath in through your nose. Exhale out of your mouth. Maybe even make a sound if you're in an appropriate place to make a sound. Relax your face, relax your jaw. Big deep breath in through your nose. Out through your mouth. Okay. I want you to drop in to this place of just a little bit more safety, just a little bit more room. Here, you can keep your eyes closed if you'd like to. A little bit more safety, a little bit more room here. And if it were safe to feel whatever emotions are coming up for you, what would some of those emotions be? Maybe one is popping their head out right now. And if you're still feeling that fear, that's okay. Make room for fear. It's like, all right, fear. Okay. What's coming up for me is fear. All right, fear. Sit at the table. We're going to pretend that our emotions are just coming to the table. We're inviting them in. Come to the table. Okay, fear is here. Maybe sadness shows up, grief. Maybe anger comes into the picture, frustration, irritation. So just notice who's at the table, okay? Because we want to be able to name how we're feeling. Like I said, we're grounding into us first. And what part of grounding in is just acknowledging how we're feeling. We don't have to do anything about that right now, all right? So noticing what comes up for you. If you need to take more time with this, you can pause this video and sit and breathe and just notice the emotions that come up without resisting them, without being upset that they're there. Imagine that your emotions are kids, and these kids are just letting you know that they're here, right? So they're showing up, they're like, hey, my name is anger. And if a little kid came up to you and they were like, hey, I'm really angry, you wouldn't be like, no, you don't exist. You wouldn't be like, go away, you're not allowed to be angry. You'd be like, oh, okay, you're angry, I got it. Or if a little kid came up to you and they were like, I'm really sad and I'm really hurt, you wouldn't dismiss that little kid. I know you wouldn't do that. You're a very empathetic and compassionate person. You wouldn't do that. You'd be like, oh my gosh, tell me a little bit more. Why you're so sad, why you're hurt, what happened? Tell me, talk to me, give me a hug. So I want you to, if we're going to go a layer deeper here, I want you to extend that compassion to yourself and to your emotions. So as they're coming to the table, I just want you to acknowledge, like, hi, sadness, hi, hurt, hi, anger, whoever's here, I hear you. Why do you feel this way? And maybe you go one at a time. Maybe pick the one that either feels the least scary or the most scary first. Whichever one that you go with, let's say that you go with hurt. Hi, hurt. Tell me why you're hurt. And maybe your logical mind knows why you're hurt, but I actually want you to let your emotions tell you why it's there and why it is coming up for you. So keeping your eyes closed, again, if you can, be like, hi, hurt. Why are you here? Tell me what's coming up for you. And I want you to listen to the answer and write it down. Either put a note on your phone, or if you have a notebook or a journal. So be like, okay, this is the conflict that I'm avoiding. I feel unclear. Here are the emotions that come up: sadness, hurt, anger. Hurt is here because, and then write that down. So hurt is here because, and maybe hurt says, I'm here because I am exhausted and I feel like I've done everything that I possibly could to make the situation better, and it's not getting better. And I feel hurt. I feel misunderstood. I feel judged. So maybe hurt has multiple emotions with it, and that's okay. So you can just write all of that down. All right. And you can do this exercise for every single one of your emotions as well. Okay. So you can do it for the sadness. I'm making up, obviously, and because you're not actually here in front of me, I'm making up that the three emotions that are there for you are sadness, hurt, and anger. So for you, whatever the emotions that are there for you, write them down, ask them what they're there for. You can take this exercise a little bit further. However, for the purposes of YouTube and keeping this video as concise as I can, we're just going to stick with that for now. Okay. So now you're a little bit more clear on the emotions that you're feeling. Isn't that relieving? How relieving is that? I like to celebrate the small wins. That's a small win. If after watching this video, you're not more clear on your emotions, that's okay. If you want to watch this video a couple times, if you want to sit with it, sometimes if you're not used to doing exercises like this, like sitting with it and coming back to it in 3 days or coming back to it in a week can be really helpful, because if you've never done something like this before, then your system is getting used to the prompts that I'm giving too. So it's totally okay if this didn't fully land today. That's okay. Also, if you still are unclear, you can watch this next part because I'm going to give you what you can say as well, because we're going to move on to the communication piece of this. So now we're more clear on our emotions. So now we're going to talk about how do we communicate those feelings? How do we communicate those emotions to the person that we are needing to have a difficult conversation with? So the first thing that I want to give you is just to acknowledge how you feel coming into the conversation. And I'm making an assumption that this person also wants to talk to you. I'm also making an assumption that you have come to a place of consent to having this conversation as well. So I don't want you to like spring this conversation on people. I want you to make sure that you're asking for consent to have this conversation. Like, hey, I've been having a really hard time. I really need to talk to you about it. when are you available to have a conversation with me about that? Or maybe you're already mid-conflict, so they know that something is up. So maybe you're coming to them like, "Hey, I wanna keep talking about this. Are you available now?" Or, "When are you available?" So making sure that you get the consent to have this conversation first. Great. So then you're gonna come into this conversation, and if you're still unclear about how you feel, you can say that. I know it's really vulnerable, and that in itself can be really scary, but saying something like, "I'm still not clear how I feel about this." And for the people who are now clear, more so how they feel, what you're going to say is, "I was unclear about how I was feeling. And I now realize that what I'm feeling is" fill in the blank, list off the emotions that you're feeling. "And I also realized that why I'm feeling this way is because" and then fill in the blank of remember how I told you to write down what the emotions were telling you? It's like, "I'm feeling hurt because I don't feel heard by you. I'm feeling sad, and I'm also feeling a little bit defeated because we've been having this struggle for so long that I am not really sure what to do about that." Say out loud what the emotion said to you, right? Or what you got from the emotion. And I realize that this is really scary and vulnerable, but this is the thing about stepping into vulnerability in conversations, in your relationships, is that you're gonna open up the vulnerability door, and this is an invitation for the other person to meet you there. It's an invitation for the other person to step in to that vulnerability room with you. And they'll either meet you there or they won't meet you there. This is the decision that you need to make if you're scared that they won't meet you there. This is about who you get to be, and this is about who you get to show up as in relationships. So, do you want to be someone who shows up vulnerably and shares where they're at and opens up a space for that in their relationships, right? Like, is that the person you want to be in relationships? Because if it is, then this is your opportunity to do that, to be the person that you want to be in relationships, regardless of whether or not this particular person can meet you there or not. Because what other people do is not up to us and it's not in our control, but it is information for us and what our next move is and how we want to continue to relate with this person. So if you're continually showing up and being vulnerable and that person is not meeting you there, then that might be the conversation to have with them. "Hey, I keep showing up and being vulnerable, or I feel like I'm being really vulnerable and it doesn't feel like you're meeting me here." And coming with curiosity and not defensiveness or not attack, just like, "Hey, it seems from my point of view, I feel like I'm showing up and being vulnerable, and it feels like you're not meeting me there. It feels like you're not reciprocating that vulnerability. Is that your experience with this? I'm curious as to what the disconnect here is." But if they are showing up with you and they are being vulnerable, now you've opened up a space where you can get curious about their emotions and their experience. And the last thing that I want to say, because this video is really to get yourself clear and grounded in your emotions and to start this conversation. And the last thing that I want to say, so that you have a trajectory in this conversation, is to share with people what you are committed to. So, this is how I've been feeling. This is why I've been feeling this way. And what I want is. That's the next part. And what I want is, and it could be in the relationship in general, it could be in this specific situation. And this is not like a list of demands. That's not what this is. It's whatever you are committed to. What I want is to be able to reconnect with you because we've been really distant because of this conflict. What I want is to rebuild trust in our relationship. What I want is, or what I'm committed to is really living peacefully and harmoniously together. And so I'd really like to work towards that and cultivate that with you, even though this is really challenging. Okay, so that's what we're creating. So I'm going to recap it here for you. So we had getting clear on the emotions for you that feel unclear. There's writing down what those emotions are and doing that exercise and really deep diving and doing some internal work and just asking like, why are you here, emotion? Like we would get curious about a little kid who's hurt and writing that down, getting the consent of your conversation partner to have this conversation, and then sharing that with them, opening up that space of vulnerability in the relationship or in this conversation, and then sharing with them what you're committed to or like the ideal outcome. And again, not a list of demands, but rather what is the future that you want to create together with this person. And I talked about it more on like a general relational level, but something else for if it's a specific conflict, right? It's like, and what I'd like to get to in this specific conflict that we're having is to get it fully resolved so that we can put it in the past. Maybe that's the trajectory that you're going for. So that's like the step by step. I hope that this was helpful for you. Please put in the comments helpful. Put helpful in the comments if this was helpful so that I know. And if it wasn't helpful, put unhelpful. And then if you could let me know how it wasn't helpful for you, that would be really important feedback for me. I would love to receive that feedback. And actually, if it was helpful and you want to tell me why it was helpful, that would be really great feedback as well. I would love that. Great. This is just a small part of what's possible in learning the skill of moving from conflict to connection. And so if you're interested in learning more about that skill of moving from conflict to connection, my colleague and I, Bromoed, made a course called How to Have Difficult Conversations, and we are giving away the first module for free. So I would love to give this to you. It's in the description of this video. So please take advantage of that. Scroll to the description, click on the link, and get your free first module of the How to Have Difficult Conversations course with myself and Ro Moed. And as always, I love you. I am here for you. I'm rooting for you. And I know that you can do this. Okay, that's the thing that I want to leave you with. Okay, I know that you can do this. This is a skill, just like anything else. You can learn how to cultivate this skill of getting clearer on your emotions, of being able to speak to what those emotions are, of having these difficult conversations, of stepping into more vulnerability, of creating that future that you want to have with the people in your life. That's all a skill. And that's the skill that I teach. That's the skill that Ro teaches. And that's why we created this program. It's not just a course, it's a program. We run it every single year. And so we want to give you the first module for free just so you can start on that journey of learning and continuing to learn these skills because we're all human and we're all continually learning. So there's no shame wherever you're at in this journey. No shame at all. All right. I love you. You're amazing. And I will see you in the next video.